All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. It's good to have you all here. This is our first of our new Trusted Voices webinar series. I'm Jonathan Reynolds, CEO here at Titus Talent Strategies. Thanks for joining. We are really glad you are here today. The first topic is one I know many of you wrestle with. That's why you're here. I'm assuming you didn't come here because you wanted to hear this accent, but you actually wanted some great content around a challenge that we all face. I have been there when it comes to hiring sales people. When is the right time to make your next sales hire? Move too soon, you drain resources. Wait too long, and you risk losing some serious momentum. And when you look to your left and your right, people on your team going, when are you going to hire somebody? It's really easy to react. And when we react, we can throw aside wisdom. And so today we're going to tackle that challenge head on and give you some practical ways to know when your team is ready, when you're ready, and how to hire for impact when the time comes. So the whole idea behind the Trusted Voices webinar series is really to bring you insights from people that we trust at Titus, people that we know personally, we trust, we partner with. They've served our clients. We've got 1,500 clients around North America. These are the people that we recommend. And we thought, rather than just privately recommending them, why not bring them to the spotlight here? And I'll let you get to meet some of these folk and hear some of the rich wisdom of how they're helping businesses across North America. So I am joined by my friend and co-host, Bill Poole, president of Convergo. Bill spent years helping companies design sales systems, growth strategies, and align with where they are today and where they want to be tomorrow and the years ahead. He's got deep experience in helping companies and leaders answer the tough questions when it comes to sales readiness, timing, and performance. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Bill Poole.
Thanks so much for having me today, Jonathan. And maybe more importantly, thanks for inviting me to be a Titus trusted partner. Before we dive in, I'd like to get some insight on our audience with a couple of polls. So if we can launch the first poll, the question with the first poll is, which of the following describes you? You can answer actually both of the polls in one fell swoop here. So take a look at both of them. The second one is, how many bad sales hires have you made?
So if you can see the poll right on the screen and you're not driving, mark down your answers to question 1 and 2. And while we're waiting on for some of these answers to come in and get the poll in, please feel free to use the chat if you want to put in any questions live as we're going through. If you have like actual questions that you would like to be included in a Q&A, there's a little button at the bottom that says Q&A, and you can put them there. Nobody else gets to see the questions. If you use it there, if you put it in chat, everybody can see it. So there you go.
And we will answer those at the end, right, Jonathan?
Yes, we will.
We'll answer them on the fly if it's appropriate. All right, let's see those, see the poll results. Looks like we got a pretty mixed group here with founders with to elevate from the sales seat to focus on higher value activities, a founder with the sales team, sales leader with a small business or got an enterprise sales leader as well, and then other. Let's see, how many bad sales hires have you made? We have a few people that want to be proactive and avoid it, which is fantastic. And then you got one, a few, or a lot. Fantastic. Thanks for your work in that poll. So let's start with the simple truth though. Making the right sales hire at the right time can unlock huge opportunities for your business, but making that hire too early or without the right foundation can really drag down the whole business. So it's not about hiring sooner or later. It's really about hiring when you're ready. So today, we're going to explore why timing matters so much, what ready looks like, and how to set yourself up to win, whether you're hiring soon or not, if you're just wanting to avoid making that bad hiring mistake. So there's a lot of good reasons to grow the sales team, But one of the biggest drivers is preparing for the possibility of an exit. A lot of founders reach the point where they realize they should be positioning themselves for an exit, whether they truly want to exit or not. This applies to founders who might be the only ones doing the selling, or those who have a sales team but still might be involved in selling deals or managing reps. A footnote on founders managing sales reps: they're not typically the best sales managers, are they, Jonathan?
No.
Here's the hard truth, though. Buyers discount businesses that rely on the founder to drive revenue by 10 to 30% or more. 10 to 30% or more. They see it as risky and often require the founder to stick around for a long earnout. So if the business can't sell without you, it's simply harder to sell and worth less. Of course, there's some other reasons as well. If the founder is in the sales seat and driving sales, a lot of times that they get distracted. So they may want more predictable revenue. Maybe they want to enter into new markets, possibly growing to reinvest in growth, potentially for acquisition, or invest in other areas of the business, or just freeing up your time to focus elsewhere, be it focusing on the business or maybe even personally. Regardless of your reason, the timing of the next sales hire should be aligned with your business goals and your readiness. When you hire another salesperson before the business is ready, the consequences can really be brutal. Even with the right foundation, if you have things in place, it can take 6 to 9 months for a new salesperson to ramp up and start producing results. But if the foundation isn't in place, the ramp up takes even longer and often never really happens. So what are the results? The rep is frustrated. The founder or sales leader is frustrated. Countless time and money are wasted, and the founder still ends up having to get pulled back in to close deals. It can even damage client relationships as well, especially if the new hire is expected to step into client-facing roles that they may not be prepared for. In the end, if the foundation is ready, you're not hiring a solution, you're plugging someone into chaos. Here's something we see all the time. If I could just hire another salesperson, it would solve my growth problem. Jonathan, question for you. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see businesses make when hiring for sales?
Well, probably one of the biggest ones is just reactionary. Somebody resigns, somebody leaves, and it's a reactionary versus a thought through strategic move and a strategic hire, really looking at how it's going to impact the business over the next 36 months, maybe.
Right on, that reactionary. Maybe they'll go into ChatGPT and get a sales professional job description and put it up on Indeed and see what comes in, right?
Well, yeah, and then typically speaking, what high performing salesperson who's exceeding whatever their goals and quota is are out there looking for jobs. So
exactly. Great point. Reality is that hiring a rep is not a silver bullet. It only works if the foundation is in place. After you know your go-to-market strategy, you have the right role defined, you have the messaging, processes, and systems to support the sales rep. Even if those pieces aren't ready, the salesperson is really set up to fail. So let's look at 4 areas you need to be confident in before making a sales hire. The first, revenue predictability and market fit. In other words, is sales really the problem, or is there something a bit more foundational? Next, scalable message. Is there a shared story and a message that others can confidently use to drive conversations? The third one is the transferable sales system. Are your processes repeatable? Are they embedded and optimized in your CRM? The fourth is sales execution transferability. Are roles clearly defined, and can someone else, not you, manage and close deals effectively? We're going to explore each of those in detail, beginning with revenue predictability and market fit. As I said before, the question here is sales really the problem? Sometimes founders think sales is broken, but what's really broken is clarity around the market and the offering. I'd like to share a quick story couple years ago, we worked with a custom software development firm. They did great work. Unlike a lot of other custom software development firms, they have a very diverse list of happy clients in a variety of different industries and functions. But they wanted to grow because the founder's long-term goal was to have the option for exit. So he wanted to build a team and take off the sales hat. So we helped him. He refined his ideal client profile. We built a compelling message, created a referral-based sales system, hired a salesperson to run it. So then the salesperson comes on board. The salesperson had been onboarded for 4 months, and then everything changed. He finished developing this really cool niche software application, a very niche application, and decided to pivot the business around that product, which really called for an entirely different approach with a much more extensive targeted marketing approach. So the entire sales strategy, messaging, ideal client profile, and sales hire became completely irrelevant with lots of time and wasted money. And the most expensive mistake was really the sales hire in this case. So the moral of that story is before you hire, get really clear on what you're selling and who you're selling it to. Next, let's talk about how to craft a message that scales beyond you, because you don't want your team out there making it up as they go, and you don't want to be the only one that can tell the story of your business. So I'll share a few best practices in this space. The first is to get input directly from your best clients through voice of their client interviews and surveys. We do voice of their client interviews at Convergo, and they're really eye-opening. They're pretty fun, actually, as well. The client's perception of value, our client's perception of value can be vastly different than how the business feels about their value proposition. So it's really, really important not to sit in a conference room with locked doors and windows to come up with your value proposition and message. You really want to gather that voice of the client as an input. Then you anchor your message in your ideal client profile and buyer personas so that you have a basis to build out your message and your sales systems. Then, good idea to develop a first step offer, a low commitment way for prospects to engage with your business. At Convergo, we have the sales readiness checkup, which I'll share with you later, but it's important that you have a way for prospects to lightly engage with your business that might teach them a little bit about you. Then you develop a shared narrative that helps your team and your partners guide ideal clients through their path to value, the story basically of their client journey. This makes your story repeatable and transferable. Next is looking at the transferable sales system. A lot of businesses all businesses start with the founder selling from their head. So making a sales hire before establishing that sales system is one of the most common challenges that we encounter, because the sales approach should really be based on a system instead of a personality. So we're talking about processes for how leads are generated, how they're nurtured, how deals are closed through a structured sales process, how client relationships are managed and expanded over time. This all needs to be built into a CRM and be repeatable. So let's look in a little bit further detail there at that funnel. Starting at the top of the funnel, this is really a huge decision point here. What's the right go-to-market strategy? At a high level, there's really 3 different approaches here. One is a sales-led strategy where you need someone to go out there and hunt for new business. A marketing-led strategy, you might need a closer to work the inbound leads that your marketing team is generating. Or a lot of times, like a high-trust B2B services business, the best path to growth might be to formalize a referral system or sell through strategic partnerships. And I know, Jonathan, you have done a fantastic job of growing your business. Can you provide some context as to your approach given those 3 different options?
Keep going. Keep going.
Jonathan,
You're fine.
Jonathan, why don't you tell me about your strategic partner? Tell me about how successful your strategic partner program is.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I just don't want to derail yourself. I'm laughing. I'm passionate, I think, about the people space, and the opportunity that we always have to build great relationships. And I think whether it be sales or anything we do, really, it all comes down to relationships, the make or break of any company culture, whether it be a high performance or low performance. I think it all comes down to authentic connection. And so we really lean deep into that, and everything that we do is on that foundation of authentic relationship. And so if it is our strategic partnership network, these are people who are out there spending time relationally with the people that we want to spend time with. And so we build relationships with them as if they are prospects, if you will, talking sales language. And everything is framed in authenticity. Everything is framed in, do we want to build relationships with these people? This is not just about business card exchange or interactions or transactions. If it's all about the transaction, I think many of us would agree that automation can do that if it's just about transaction. But if it's about relationship, it takes a whole different worldview.
Awesome. And I know some of the folks in your strategic partner program, and they all do a great job supporting their strategic partners. It's a great way to build a high trust business like yours. So moving down the funnel to nurture, you may have leads in your system that just needs to be worked consistently. That's not like by like an account manager like salesperson, but that would be like a BDR approach, right? So you have a BDR that works on putting a brain behind the nurturing that marketing might be doing for your clients to bring those opportunities down the funnel and convert them into sales discussions, which is what happens in the close section there. The closing is really about having a structured process for qualifying prospects, uncovering needs, and developing compelling proposals. So without that structure, you can get some successes with a highly experienced sales professional, but typically they're going to struggle. At the bottom of the funnel, are you systematically managing and expanding relationships with existing clients as their needs evolve? This is forgotten a lot of times. This can actually be the most profitable way to grow. So don't forget about putting a sales perspective into your client relationships to expand those, stay connected with your client's business, and improve revenue per client. The best sales systems, though, as you see the funnel up there, touch the entire life cycle, not just looking at the very top of the funnel and lead generation and net new revenue. Next, sales execution. Who should you hire and how should they be hired? You can't just hire somebody with a big Rolodex and figure it out. In fact, that's often the mistake you make. We've seen companies that maybe should be growing through strategic partner programs hire a hunter instead just because they had contacts. So this person may have a network, but they're not set up to succeed. And when they leave the business, the business is back to square one, and the relationships go with them. So before you hire, be clear on the role based on your go-to-market strategy, build onboarding, training, and coaching systems, and ensure they're trained on your message, process, and CRM. Sales success isn't really just about the best person. It's really about whether the system sets them up to win. So if you're curious about where you stand with all this, I invite you to take our sales readiness checkup to see how ready your business is to hire that next salesperson. A short assessment that gives you clear feedback on where your gaps might be and where to focus on first. Regardless, it's a great first step if you're planning to hire or just exploring the potential of hiring. You can access the sales readiness survey using the QR code there on the screen. So Jonathan,
cool.
Over to you.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, cool, thanks. I think this is for any business owner, business exec, you're growing your organization, you're gripped with vision, you can see where your business is going and your organization is going, you're obsessed with the impact and the dreams and hopes that you have, and you want to create a great company culture where people want to be, they want to be a part of, they want to grow with you, they want to see the impact of your future, they're compelled by it. It's really, really important that we have a people strategy. It's really important as we start talking about how am I going to grow my business from a sales and revenue generation? simultaneous to that, you've got to have a people strategy. In the same way you want to build up your sales funnel, you want to build up your people funnel. People who know about you, who are attracted to your organization, to the values in which you have, to the culture in which you have. That's something that lights me up. And I spent the last couple of decades passionate about company culture and being intentional about it, because everybody has a company culture. For me, I love performance. I love a high-performing company culture. I want to be on a winning team. If you've ever been in an organization where you're not winning, it can, or maybe you're on a sports team or some kind of you're playing a sport with somebody else. Maybe you've not done that for many years, but it just sucks to lose. When you look at the scoreboard and you're not winning, it is really disheartening. And if you're giving your absolute all and you're carrying the team, and you look to your left and your right and they're not performing, or they're not giving it their all, or they're not, they drop the ball every single time, that's really frustrating. And so for me, I want to create cultures and be intentional about a culture of high performance, so that everybody knows what excellence looks like in their role. So even though today we're talking about sales and sales hiring, it's really obvious to know if a salesperson's winning or not, if they're hitting quota. But I believe that everyone in the organization should know what hitting quota is for their role. What does excellence look like in that role? And so we talk about performance-based hiring, or hiring for performance. The number one reason when we want to hire somebody should be that they get the job done the way you're paying them. So 100% of their compensation should equal 100% performance. So if you pay your people every 2 weeks, isn't it fair that if you're expected to pay them 100% of what you agreed, isn't it fair that they would know what 100% performance looks like? And isn't it fair that you should expect them and hold them accountable to that? I think so. So how that works and starts is, when it comes to the hiring, the initial agreement that you're going to come and work for our organization and you're going to help us hit our big goals and dreams and hopes. Here's our vision of where we're going. They need to know how they fit in this picture. How do they fit? And what does excellence look like? Or what does acceptable look like? Because I would be willing to bet if you shortchange somebody on their salary or pay, on their 2-week paycheck, they may come knocking on your door saying, hey, hold on a second, you didn't pay me what you said you were going to pay me. I'm like, oh, that's because you didn't deliver the results I was expecting. Don't worry, I'm not suggesting you do that. That'll cause a big problem. But it's really important to know clearly what is the outcome, not just the activity. And I see all too many job descriptions posted out there, especially for salespeople: build relationships in the territory. You're like, okay, what do you mean? So after 90 days or 180 days or 365 days, somebody goes, hey, the job description says build relationships. I had 200 lunches with people and I racked up a big bill. You didn't tell me I had to hit quota in the job description. You just said build relationships. Like, that's an activity versus an outcome. So we really want to be clear on, like, what should the outcome be? What should performance look like? So what should they do in the first 30 days, 90 days? By outcomes, 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 outcomes. Really important to focus on outcomes when it comes to hiring. And how you hire is how you get to manage people. So if you're really clear on the front end and really clear how you're going to be managing them throughout the process, that's where the big shift happens. So mindset into outcomes. And I often say this to executives and business owners when it comes to hiring. All right, let's fast forward a year. We're sitting down. You hired this person today. Fast forward a year, and you tell me, oh, Jonathan, we hired this person. What an outstanding hire. They're just amazing. And I said, great, tell me about it. Oh, what a great culture fit. What do you mean? Everybody loves them. They're just absolute cheerleader for what we're doing here in our brand and our culture. And they're just a glue. They've really made a big impact. Oh, tell me about the impact. Oh, everyone loves them. We have, beer 30 on Fridays. Everyone wants to go hang out with them. They're just the life of the party. And I'm like, fantastic. Tell me about the outcomes, though. What have they done, achieved, or accomplished? How does the business look different, or the organization look different because they're here? Oh, that's a good point, actually. I don't know. And so we say, oh, they're a great culture fit or a great culture add, yet they didn't actually accomplish anything. And that is sadly one of the reasons why a lot of people keep people around who are underperforming, because they're so well liked. But again, that's a drain of resources, and true top performing people see through that. They're like, hold on a second. They don't really do anything around it. Everyone seems to like them. They're the life of the party. They're very encouraging. They're very positive. I don't really know what they do. And so that's what we want to avoid here. And the way you avoid that is being clear on the front end so that you can manage on the back end. So, all right, let's keep moving through here. So performance is really, really important, I believe, and building that performance profile, if you will. And I say the performance profile versus a job description, because many a job description really describe a person. Must have 7 to 10 years of this, must have 4 years experience managing people. Now, if you've ever seen the classic cult movie Office Space, somebody can be around for a long time and have 7 years of experience doing something, but it doesn't mean they're any good at it. So if you actually took a job description saying must have 7 years experience of this, must have 4 years experience, must have a CPA, must have an accounting degree, must have, all of those must-haves are really describing a person. And just because they have those things doesn't mean they're any good at those things. You could be a brain surgeon for 20 years. I would want to know, if you're going to be operating on my child, what's your success rate versus your experience in length of years? Really important to me to know if you're any good at what you do versus years of experience. So performance profile is different than a job description describing the job, what you do. It's really describing the outcomes. And then you can back your way into it, saying, what skills would somebody need to get that job done? What experience must they have to get that job done? So if you were going into acquisition mode and you're planning on acquiring 3 or 4 companies in the next 3 years, well, you might want somebody who's successfully helped with companies, mergers and acquisitions, versus I was a part of a merger and acquisition. And so I have experience in it versus successfully accomplishing that. And I would define, what does success look like when it comes to M&A? And then what are the behaviors and the right motivations that you would need to get the said job done? So you're looking at the outcomes and what it takes to get those outcomes accomplished to build your performance profile. So really important. And once you get this clear, those behaviors and motivations, I think it's a very much overlooked piece. Most people need to work to live. Okay, most people who go and apply to a job is because they want to provide for themselves, they want to provide for their family or significant others or dependents. That's important to them. They want to, yes, they want to earn money. Now people say, oh, money's not the most important. I'm like, sure, but if you have somebody wins the lottery, I don't know, we'll see how many actually stay around working with you. If they become completely independently wealthy overnight, they may not want to work the same amount, for the same amount of money. So people do need to earn money to survive, but they have a choice of where they work. And that's the culture piece. But really, really important that when you get to hiring people, you're very clear on the outcomes of why you're hiring them. So if you can define all of these 3 areas, great. But you've got to define them why. Why are you defining them? You're defining them based on what needs to get done, achieved, or accomplished, so outcomes. So the performance, these things, skills, experience, and behaviors must be tied to the point of why you're hiring. Okay. So I always say, when somebody says, I need somebody with 7 years experience managing a team of people, I'm like, why do you need 7 years experience? If they had 3, but they were absolute rock star and they just can crush it, would you be open to that? Oh yeah, absolutely. So what was it when you said 7, where was the thinking there? And they're like, just because somebody has 7 years experience and they're really bad at it, does that meet a criteria? Because a lot of algorithms of job boards with job postings and matching profiles go, ta-da, it's almost like you hold it up to the light, a job description and a resume, go, it's a 92% match. This one must be the top priority. We should definitely interview this person. They're a 92% match. And all it is, keywords and keywords. But the big question, if somebody is absolutely crushing it right now, why would they stop what they're doing and consider joining your organization for the up and to the right of their career? What's next? Because when A players make career moves, they don't make moves going, oh my gosh, I've done this job for the last 5 years. How amazing. I could totally do this job again in my sleep. They don't do that. They want another challenge. They want another trajectory. They want impact. They want some stretch. They want to be able to tell their people around them, their previous employer, their current employer, and you as well, like, I think I can do this, but it's going to be a challenge, because A players want a challenge. All right, next up. So you got to building this performance profile. Really, really important. So let me ask a question before I move on to the next slide. Bill, tell me, what's one mistake that you see leaders make when they define their ideal sales hire?
Well, a lot of times it's a little bit of what we were chatting about before, right? If they take that knee-jerk reaction and put the sales hire out there without understanding, it really starts at the top. If you what's the big idea for the business? Where's the business gonna be in 3 years? Then that's, look at the business goals first, and then to have an aligned supporting sales strategy, and then you pick what is this hire, what do we need from this hire? So it's really starting high and not just reacting and hiring a salesperson without thinking about what the business needs.
Oh, it's good. Which, yeah, so, well, goes next to my next point here, is about really understanding why it matters in the bigger picture. Generally speaking, the people that I would imagine you want into your organization care about why you're doing what you're doing, versus just moving some widgets from here to here. Actually, why does this matter? Why does this matter in the grand scheme of things? Why does this matter in the world? Why does this matter to just to life? What is the impact on people around? So when I get in my car and drive from work to my home, there is a sense of dignity. There is a sense of satisfaction that what I did actually matters. Whereas if I didn't show up tomorrow, what does it matter? That sense of impact. This organization would not have the impact it wants to have in the world if I don't show up. That gives a sense of dignity to people. And I think it's really important, if you connect performance to the business outcome on the big why. Simon said, start with why. Like, why are we doing this? Why does it matter? Why does excellence matter? Like, why do the details matter? Well, because it impacts other people. If you're trying to make something, if you're in hospitality, making something beautiful, making something clean, and making something pretty and attractive. Hey, why does it matter? Because not just because people are paying to stay at or come to our establishment. People are coming here for a special occasion. They're celebrating people in their life, and they want it to reflect they've chosen this great establishment because it reflects this person is special to me. I'm willing to pay a premium for a great experience because I want to show this person that they mean something to me. And so people can realize that and go, oh, wow, I'm a part of that. When I'm cleaning the bathrooms in this establishment, it's to show somebody that they're special, that we care. Like, wow, that actually connects the dots of why we exist. But performance-based metrics provide clarity for both the leader and the hire. So you get to tell the story. Hey, why do we exist as an organization? What are we trying to do, achieve, and accomplish? Why are we doing that? And how does this person fit in to the puzzle? I am a wild, maverick, visionary person, want to change the world, make a big impact. And for those who know me, even sometimes if they know me for a long time and I tell them that I enjoy puzzles, they're like, what? I cannot imagine you sitting down without fidgeting. As a child, I got in trouble in school all the time for messing around and fidgeting. But I actually like sitting and looking at a puzzle, like a 500 piece. I don't like the 10,000 piece puzzle, but a 500 piece puzzle, that's good for me. But if somebody handed me a Ziploc bag and said, do this puzzle, I'd be like, well, what does the picture look like? Give me the box. I want to see the box. One, to see if I even want to do it. Is it even worth it? Is the picture worth doing? Is it worth making this beautiful picture or not? I want to know those things. I don't want to do one of those puzzles that are just frustrating, that just look like 5,000 M&Ms sitting there. I'm like, that's exhausting. I don't want to do that. At the end of it, it's not worth it. But for people in your organization, they are a part of this beautiful picture. You've created this future desired state of the company, making a wonderful impact. And they are a piece of that picture. They are a puzzle piece. If your organization needs 200 people in the next few years to actually accomplish its goals, they are one of the 200 pieces. But can you imagine doing a puzzle and getting to the very, very end and you're missing a piece? You've done this beautiful picture. How frustrating is it to have a missing piece on a puzzle that you've just spent hours doing? But for people to realize that they are the missing piece in your puzzle, that they are a piece of the picture that actually makes it all work in the end of the day. And they feel that I actually need to show up because I'm a part of the impact here. And if I don't show up, we don't accomplish the beautiful picture we're trying to communicate. But people need to see the future desirable state, that picture, and they need to see themselves in it. If they can't see themselves in it, that's where disengagement kicks in. And that's where people give less than their best. They don't want to go above and beyond. Maybe absenteeism kicks in, maybe mediocre kicks in, and they don't see how they're connected to the person to the left, the right, the back, and front. Right? Understanding their piece in the puzzle is super, super important. So aligning your sales hires to that, your business goals and objective, and making your sales hires realize that they're not just an independent person out there knocking on doors and drumming up business. They actually are connected to everybody else in the puzzle piece in your organization. If they don't deliver results, guess what? These people don't have enough work and the growth, and it impacts other people. So they need to emotionally connect to the people that they are providing for, that everybody works together as a puzzle piece. So that way it comes down to motive, and it removes this. We talk at Titus, we have a no a-hole policy, and it's not directed at salespeople. It's actually directed at everybody. If you think that you are independent and better than the team and you could run circles around everyone else, you're not going to fit very well at Titus, because we recognize that you don't have a story to tell unless we all do our work. If a salesperson's on the front line, they are telling stories about the great work that our company does all day, every day. If their team members are not delivering great stories and great results, they don't have a story to tell out in the marketplace. They are connected. So everybody needs to understand that they're connected to others. So really, really important, connecting your hire, making them understand the bigger picture. So your performance profile or your success profile in recruiting and interviews, you get to use that to say, here's what we're trying to do. Can you do that? Do you want to do it? And do you want to do it in this environment with these types of people? Here are our values. Our core values are not just buried on our website or in the employee manual. We live them. We breathe them. They're part of our interview. We're going to assess that in the interview process. So if you set clear expectations of what needs to be done, but you also set very, very clear expectations on how it needs to be done. That's a cultural piece. How they interact with the people to their left and right, or the puzzle pieces around them, they're really, really important. When you start treating other people like they just work for you versus you're a part of the team, and that we rise and fall and we win together, we succeed together, we celebrate together, that everybody is a part of that, whether they're very much behind the scenes or right there in front of all of your customers and the revenue generators on the front line. All of those work together because we cannot do it alone. And so really clear expectations there. And then it helps you be able to interview for those character traits as well. So if you say, hey, we want somebody who's really high EQ, relationally connected and relationally strong when it comes to building authentic connections. Okay, how are we going to do that? Like, how do we build and structure our interview process or our application process to shine and highlight whether that person actually has that skill set or ability or even motive? And so versus creating really silly, arbitrary interview processes that are just bizarre. Sometimes I've heard of people's interview process that are just bizarre, and they're not connected to the company. They're not connected to the culture. They're just really building up the ego of some highly intelligent person who wants to see how other people process. But I'm like, I don't know if that's even connected to your goals and objectives. So I've always historically used the word integrity in the interview process because many companies have some variation of the word integrity, honesty, ethics, whatever. Even Enron did, by the way. That's an example of an organization who doesn't live out their values. And if you're going to live out your values, you need to test and see if people actually live out their values. So When I used to interview people in our company, I would say something like, hey, it's 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. What did you tell your boss that you're doing today, right now? Like, what did you say? Because obviously you're not working, you're interviewing here with us, with me. What did you tell your boss you're doing? And the classic was, I remember somebody said, oh, I just said I was at the dentist. And I'm like, ha ha ha, you know, they said it with a sort of twinkle in their eye, like, yeah, that's how I get out of situations. And I'm like, totally. What's that? They call that a white lie, right? It's just like, it's not exactly true, but you say it when you're in an awkward situation. You don't want to be really honest. And they're like, yeah. And so I made them feel really comfortable. And then I give them a zinger. I'm like, I get it. Most of the world probably would agree with you. When things get awkward and you don't want to tell the truth, you just tell a white lie. For us, in our company culture, that wouldn't fly. And I'll tell you why. Because if we were to hire you and you say, I didn't do this project for this reason, or I didn't get this thing done on time because of this reason, I would assume that you might be telling one of those white lies that you've already told me you tell. Or 6 months' time, you say you're going to the dentist. I'm like, are they really going to the dentist? Because I know that when they interviewed me, they said they're going to the dentist. I don't know. I don't really trust this person, because they've demonstrated that in a situation, in a pinch, they may squirm out of it and not tell the truth. So I'll just let you know right now, that won't fly in our company culture. Totally fine. Go and be excellent and awesome somewhere else. But that definition doesn't fly with us. And people are, whoa, you really said that in an interview? I'm like, yeah, I really did. And I did it because I want everybody in our organization, the puzzle pieces, to know from day one, jury's not out on whether this person's going to work. Jury's not out on whether this person's got the right character and core value alignment. Jury's not out whether they're going to fit in our culture. We choose to trust because they've demonstrated being trustworthy and high character. So really important to us. And yes, we all make mistakes, and I can be held accountable for saying things and doing things and acting ways that are unbecoming and not in alignment with who I say I am. But in situations of pattern, they're saying that that's okay with them. It's not okay with us. So you design your interview process around your culture, and to say, okay, how am I going to assess and observe these behaviors, make it relevant, so that when you do hire people, everyone goes, we are so stoked and pumped that you're here. We already know you've gone through a rigorous interview process and assessment process around skills, values, and behaviors, and that you want to do this job, you want to do it with us, and you want to do it, and you're going to celebrate our cultural values of what keeps us true to our future state of where we're going. So then all of these things that when you onboard people and integrate them into your organization, they're not surprised, like, oh, wait, what? I didn't know this was the culture. There's more you can be really open and explicit about it on the front end. You're going to get people who are phenomenal on your hiring. So, all right, I'm going to pause at this point. We're about 10, 15 minutes before we wrap up our time together. And we want to give room for questions. Assuming that everybody who showed up here to this webinar is sitting here going, yeah, I need to hire some people. Or from the survey at the beginning, some of you said, I've made bad hires. I could tell you some stories. The last time I made a hire in our organization, I got fired. And I own my own company. I was fired by our team from hiring people because what happened is, here's the story. It was a salesperson. We were hiring a salesperson, and I sat in a final interview with a sales hire, and I went through my scorecard for hiring. We call it head, heart, briefcase. So head is behaviors and cognitive, heart being values, character, and motivation, and briefcase meaning what do they bring to the table by skills and experience. You can read about this. I wrote a book on it called Right Seats, Right People. You can get it on Audible, or you can get it on Amazon, whatever. Or Barnes and Noble. Does that still exist? I think so. But I wrote about this story of like how I went through my scorecard for hiring, and this person, they scored low on some of the character and core values. But if I'm really honest, I looked at this person, I'm like, I can help them become the person that they want to become. Even though they scored low on here, I see them, or I see a diamond in the coal. And everybody else around me said, Jonathan, don't hire this person. They're not the right value alignment. They're not the right core value addition to us. They don't make us better. They're going to cause question marks in their character and integrity. And I'm like, no, no, no. I am a visionary person. I can see something in here that you can't see. Trust me. And they said, trust you. But you're not going to be managing this person. We have to manage them. And I'm like, I know, but I am the CEO and I have these superpowers that you just don't have, with a wink, wink. And within 30 days, I was on a family vacation. I got a phone call from one of our senior leaders and they said, Jonathan, as predicted, this person is no good. They don't have integrity and you need to fire them. They don't work for me. They work for you. And they said, no, you told us to hire them. You should fire them. Anyway, so I had to call up Jeremy. That was his real name, and fire Jeremy. And we still never got the laptop back. Surprise, surprise. And so I was fired from hiring. Sometimes you need to be aware of your own ego. Sometimes you need to be aware of flattery. That person made me feel good. They like me. And so I think I like that. And so being really objective in your hiring, I say use a scorecard and use the scorecard to compare to what you actually want the person to do, achieve, or accomplish, and the motive that drives them, for you to actually objectively assess, why didn't that work out? Because people are messy, by the way. It doesn't always work out. No matter how great you are at hiring, you're not going to get it 100% because people are messy, people change, and things happen in people's lives that shift their motive and drive. Things that are outside of their control and your control. So it's unpredictable. But being aware to go, why didn't that work? And actually get better at it. So that was the last time I was allowed to hire in my own company, and I submit to the process, and I'm okay with that. So what questions, if any, come to mind? Oh, some questions are flying in now.
We got a question, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So when you're ready to make a sales hire, how do you decide how to ramp up the salesperson's quota? Where's the line where we expect too much and too little from sales members who we are about to onboard? So I can take that one. I can take a first stab at that, Jonathan. If you think about a spectrum of having nothing in place and having the entire foundation in place, obviously that's a big factor. Unfortunately, the answer is somewhat that it depends. So what are some of the variables that might depend on? I'd say the length of the sales cycle is really important. Also, the expectations are there. Are they supposed to generate, salespeople supposed to generate leads that on their own, or the leads just handed to them, right? So if the leads are generated for them, then they should probably be ramping up sooner than later. If they're generating the leads on their own and you have long sales cycles, then in the beginning you measure how many leads might be coming in. So it's a lot about the structure. It's about the type of the deal, the clarity on ideal clients. If you have a history to fall back on as well, if you're making your 25th hire, then you have a lot of data to fall back on to help you make that decision. But if you're really starting off and it's your first hire, excuse me, it can be challenging to lay that out.
That's great to answer there, and thanks for the question. And another question came in. I'll take a stab at it. And here's one that Bill and I may differ on. So get ready. And I welcome that, by the way. And you may, the person who asked the question may have a question. So Ethan asks, what potential issues or hindrances come with hiring a part-time salesperson rather than a full-time employee? So here's how I tackle this. For me personally, full-time, you think, okay, full-time focus, full-time undistracted, full-time giving their self to this. They live and breathe it. They're thinking about it when they're at home, when they're falling asleep. It's kind of this unrealistic expectation that they're all in versus distracted by this other part-time thing they have. Now, I recognize that we all have distractions. We all have part-time. We work for the companies we work for part-time, right? It's not 100% of our time. It is part-time. It's fragmented or fractional. It's a fraction of our life we give to our companies. Even for me as a business owner, I might say, oh, I probably think about the business a lot more than many other people who are employees, but it is still fractional. It's not 100% of my time when I'm around my family and things like that. So it is, the most important thing is, everything I talked about is, what does 100% performance look like or output look like in exchange for 100% of the compensation? I'm going to give you this much in exchange for this much. If those two things are both clear, quantifiable, and have some time-bound nature to it, I don't think it matters. If somebody's going to be part-time, just make sure it's part-time pay and part-time performance. Like, what is the expectation? But be really, really clear on it. And then you can manage according to that, in my opinion. Bill, I welcome a differing opinion.
No, I mean, that sounds about right on. I mean, the reality is, if you think about some of the folks that are on the line here are first, they're founders that potentially have not made that first sales hire. And depending on where they are from a revenue perspective, it might make sense to look at potentially a part-time person to systematize, put in a part-time person to fill that role. Obviously, that you have to temper your expectations. If that's the case, they can't be delivering full-time results if they have part-time, if they're only working part-time. But just the expected outcomes and results and activities and everything needs to be properly aligned, whether it be full-time or part-time.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So I think we're similarly aligned there. I will say this: if you look at tenure by generation, boomers were average tenure of 7 years in a company, Gen X 5 years, millennials 3 years, Gen Z 2, and you got the alpha gen coming through. You think, wait, where did this go? Like, what happens? Well, I think one of the phenomenons is going to happen, is we're going to see more of this, is the gig economy, is project-based work, where people go, this doesn't work for my lifestyle. I want to work when I want to work. Or I want to have other streams of income. So you think, oh, wait, hold on a second. You can have this job, but what do you mean you have 10 Airbnbs that you also manage? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, whoa, we can't have somebody who's distracted by that. But the generation coming through has a lot more revenue streams and a lot more options for their lifestyle that works for them. And so you hear people saying, oh, the new young generation just don't want to work. They're lazy. They're this. I'm like, oh, on the contrary, I think they're very highly productive, but what's important to them is very different, versus boomers saying job security and job stability was really important. Well, they're children of the Great Depression. And so security and stability, very, very important. But for now, the generations that, no, I actually got a lot more agility, a lot more flexibility, a lot more sort of shared economy, from everything from when Airbnb started to Turo, where you get to share your car, to anything. You're like, well, why buy it? Like, why don't you share it? The shared economy is very, very real. Shared workspaces, shared jobs. Get ready. Somebody might come into your place and say, hey, I was talking to Susie, and Susie and I, she doesn't like that part of her job. I like that part of her job. So we're just going to trade and we're going to share. You're like, wait, hold on a second. You work for me. And they're like, why does it matter? As long as the job's getting done, as long as clear expectations are there, the objectives are being met, and the compensation remains the same, just get ready. The generation coming through has a lot more kind of, well, what if we did this? What if we did this? What if we did this? A flexibility and an agility to say that the shared economy is real, and it's showing up in the workplace as well. So customized career paths are very real. And that's because we have a generation that's grown up with apps and customization and preferences, and it shows up in everything we do. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. So you either, the challenge is, do I cater to everybody, or do I lose them? Do I lose these wonderful A players who are giving me 110% for 30 hours a week? Well, what do you do now? So I would challenge the way you think about work. And one of the best ways of doing that is become very clear on outcomes and performance and what you're exchanging the compensation for. So, well, we are up on time. What I would suggest is, I just put in chat here my LinkedIn profile. You're welcome to follow me there. Any social channels as well, you're welcome to. Titus Talent is out there. Just really, we're in the space of hiring, training, retaining talent. We're a talent strategy company. We don't care about butts in seats, as many recruiters do, just getting the role filled. We actually help with holistic talent strategy, how to hire, engage, retain, develop talent, and helping you make a big impact in your business. Culture of engagement and performance is something that lights me up. You can follow Bill there. Bill's just put his LinkedIn profile in there. And if you would like us to follow you, you can paste yours in there as well. We'll certainly be in touch. You've got given out some QR codes there if you would like to engage with Bill, Convergo, myself, or any of our team members at Titus Talent. It's a privilege to speak to you today. We love dialogue and love it being two-way, so hopefully you reach out and connect. And this series shall continue, our trusted partner network and the trusted voices we are going to bring to the world. If you know somebody that you think should know us, please do make an introduction. We are in the people space, same as Convergo as well, and it's all about connections. So thanks again for coming. Until next time, have a great rest of the summer. It's not over yet.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks a lot, Bill.